Nathan is someone I've admired for a long time, We've worked together on projects. He's a great designer, and I love his furniture designs. If you look at his designs, they're very contemporary, but contemporary in a classic way, He works with very classic materials.
I feel very honored to be paired with Rachel Lim of Love Bonito. Heard a lot about her, heard about her success stories, and finally it's an honor to meet her today.
Well, being paired with Lip Ping in this program, it's kind of funny because I knew Lip Ping from our work and I create some design for him. But I never really sit down and kind of chat with him. My first thought was it should be quite fun to kind of sit down with Lip Ping and doing interviews with one another.
I'm really excited to meet Shukun because I've heard so much about him and what he has done for archaeology. It's really an interesting part for me because it's another aspect of design that I would really want to find out more about. And also, he's quite a young entrepreneur like myself, so I would really like to hear what he has to say about the scene in Singapore.
It's been the third year for us, for Live Inspire to have the Tastemaker as our one of our pillar content, and then also the second year for us to feature the top tastemaker in Singapore. My role, actually, together with two other media, really is to select from a list of 15 good potential tastemakers, which we don't have any problems finding, and to knock it down into the last four.
The theme for this year, I believe, is entrepreneurship. And that also means that they're not only creating products which are beautiful, but they should also be commercially viable.
An entrepreneur would be somebody who is super passionate, somebody who has the guts to just give it all and follow their dreams really and their passions.
It means that not only that you need to create your product, you need to do your work, but at the same time, when you run your business, do anything with the passion, tenacity, and also professionalism, you basically need to make things work, and which encompass a lot of qualities that a lot of people, strive to get.
Okay, so first up, Kun, what is a tastemaker to you?
I think a tastemaker is a guiding person that in his field provides a certain insight and inspires people in terms of ideas and ideals.
Being a tastemaker is a very individual thing. You should just kind of be something that you're comfortable with and consume the things you like and buy the things you like and really dress the way you like and do the things you want to do and you influence the people around you, and that's really about being a tastemaker rather than setting out to be the trendiest guy or being the most stylish guy. I think that's usually a mistake.
So you think to be honest with oneself would be the best way to start rather than trying out to impress people?
Yeah, absolutely.
A tastemaker to me is someone who determines what's trendy, what's stylish, and what's fashionable. Definitely someone who is self-confident, who's assured about himself, and then influences the people around.
Tastemaker is someone that has strong belief of their understanding of how things works. They have very strong conviction of their own belief and their sense of maybe what's right and what's wrong. And I don't think they set out to be a tastemaker. I mean, those that set out, I think sometimes a bit too contrite.
So at a very young age, were you already interested in architecture and design?
I think from a very young age, I was interested in problems and how things were like. Why so? Why not? Basic questions like that led me to be interested in architecture. If you notice, it's the only professional knowledge and technical background that you can use to apply in various scenarios. For example, you have to preach medicine a certain way, law a certain way, but architecture, it gelled my character that I could apply it across different industries, different projects, different ways. So that really sustained my interest.
You're born and raised in Ireland, so what was your background like in your education before you became a hotelier?
Well, I was actually born and raised in Ireland because my parents were living and working there at the time, and then I did my primary school in Singapore, and actually was those are my earliest memories.
That's why you're still very Singaporean.
I'm very Singaporean. Yeah.
You're not very Irish though.
Well, not unless I get a few Guinnesses in me, you know. I kind of grew up in that sort of time when kind of we're told that we should be a professional, you know, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer. But at the time, because my parents were both doctors, they kind of maybe a little bit subconsciously pushed me towards being a doctor. My sister's a doctor too, you know, so I come from a family, a lot of doctors. So I was planning to be a doctor, but you know, somewhere along the way, I realized it really wasn't something I wanted to do. So, you know, default was to be a lawyer. So I trained to be a lawyer without having any particular passion for it, I would say at that time. So did you know from a young age that you wanted to be a designer?
Yeah, because I draw really well and I'm really bad at maths and science, so it kind of like, right, this is the only way to go. Based on that, and not that I know about design, I just know that I probably want to be like a graphic designer or interior.
You enjoyed the drawing?
Yeah, I enjoy the drawing and
Creativity?
Yeah.
Yes, I've always loved fashion since young. Since a very young age, I've loved to play dress up, to mix and match my clothes, to try on new colors, and yeah, so I would say I've loved fashion since young. The general Singapore fashion is that we're casual and we dress comfortably. So I mean, when you walk down Orchard Road, it's the epitome of Singapore fashion, I think. Yeah, they're just comfortable in their clothes, sometimes too comfortable, that they're in like flip-flops and whatever they wear. But it definitely is improving. Hopefully, Love Bonito is influencing them in some ways. And of course, with the rise of social media, they're able to access more to different styles, different fashions, what the international scene is like, and hopefully they aspire to dress more like that. So could you talk us through some of your key commercial works and developments?
Archaeology started out doing residential projects. There came a point a few years back where we did a few significant commercial projects like Helipad Club, Madman Bar, Merryman Bar. It sort of made us realize that our creative thinking could be applied to business running and operations, where you design a commercial F&B joint.
When I came into practice in Singapore, it was kind of late 90s, so we were kind of really in the depth of the recession, you know. Because I was dealing a lot with bankruptcies, a lot of these mortgagee sales would be passing across my desk. And I noticed, you know, this one property that had been on auction 3 or 4 times and nobody would touch it. Subsequently, I found out it's because it was more or less a brothel before that. When it was in Tiong Siak Road, which is a notorious red light area in Singapore. Doing a boutique hotel in Tiong Siak Road broke a lot of molds. People were like, wow, this is a pretty cool boutique hotel, and I really enjoyed it. Kind of made me think maybe of a career change, and that's really how I started New Majestic, and then, you know, Majestic Restaurant, and from there lots of things came together.
Love Bonito is Singapore's leading online retail brand, and we've been around since 2010. And we sell women's apparel, everything from like clothes, dresses, tops, bottoms, and also accessories like bags, shoes, and necklaces. So we design and manufacture the pieces ourselves. 10 years ago, two of my partners and I, we came together to start out as a hobby. We wanted to sell our pre-loved clothes to earn some extra pocket money. So that was really 10 years ago, where the online scene in Singapore was barely there. Nobody was really shopping online much. But we decided, okay, because since we didn't have to pay overheads like for rental, for shop space and all that, so it was kind of like a very fuss-free way for us to sell our clothes. And through every design process, we understand that customers, they take very high emphasis on comfort with style. The design team meets weekly to talk about the latest trends, the upcoming trends, and what we would like to incorporate. We want to make sure that the pieces are stylish, trendy, yet comfortable at the same time, where we will get a fit model to try on the clothes, and we literally do some practices like, okay, we make her squat, sit, walk around, stretch, to ensure that the piece is not something that, okay, once you wear, you can't move and you're all stiff. So that's really the pride we take in ensuring that the piece of clothing is stylish yet comfortable.
Well, tell me about Grafang.
I mean, Grafang is a retail brand. The retail sell my stuff, and we also import brands from all over the world. So I just want a shop that is like casual, sell good stuff, good service, and that's it. Less pretentious in a sense.
And with your first shop, Air Division, you worked with a lot of Asian designers.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Well, the time, the landscape in Singapore is that everyone is like either importing the top-end brand, Italian brand. So there's no in-between that has good design that's more affordable.
That's done by locals, right?
Yeah, that's done by locals. No, I mean, we have Singaporean, Malaysians and Indonesians product.
Yeah, I mean, I realized that when I started collecting furniture in Singapore too. Actually, there were very few prominent local designers. I think you were the pioneer in really doing that.
Yeah, I was the stupid one that started first.
Call them pioneers.
In that sense, yeah. Is there an unlisted collection philosophy?
So you notice our hotels are always set in conservation buildings. They're always buildings with a lot of character and slightly off the kind of beaten track neighborhoods. We have Town Hall Hotel in Bethnal Green. We have Waterhouse in the South Bund in Shanghai. We have the upcoming Eau Claire in Chippendale in Sydney. We have our hotels here in Chinatown, Little India. We always site in our restaurants also in unusual neighborhoods where locals hang out.
It was not about how fancy the place looks, it's about how it runs and how you can socially engineer the patron. We would plan out how spaces along the 5-foot way where people are walking by, we place tables at a higher level, we made it very linear, so there is no awkwardness and it provides you a certain psychological feel that, hey, this space is quite nice, let me just slow down my pace, even take a seat, whereby the tuck shop turns around the corner where the walking pace drops. We design low tables to take in the view of the canal. So that was what I meant by designing a place to make them behave a certain way you want.
So recently, you collaborated with Tastemakers, who designed a dress for Jennifer Lawrence in the Hunger Games. How was that experience?
It was a really eye-opening experience for us because Tastemakers is a renowned Indonesian designer and he usually designs for haute couture. So that's really far off from like fast fashion, what Le Bonito is about. So coming together, we really wanted to marry both styles, haute couture and fast fashion, to provide more affordable, detailed pieces for the customers. So that was an eye-opener for us because having worked with such a renowned haute couture designer, you see what the things he pays attention to, like the details, down to the very minute details, and that's something that we learned technically from Tastemakers himself.
Nathan, tell me a little bit about this mass-produced coffin and room heater that you've been winning so many awards for.
It came about during the last Asian tsunami, where there's a lot of dead bodies and no one has a proper burial, have a proper coffin, especially the Indonesians, Muslim, that they need a proper burial. So I just thought that the traditional coffin just take up too much space and time to produce. As an industrial designer, I just think that it should be more efficient in terms of production. So in the end, it's more like a stamping process with wood chipboard planks, and then you just stamp it. And it's lightweight, and then it's machine produced. Like within an hour, you can produce like maybe 50 pieces. The other room heater is it's a clothes hanger, and there's a heater filament inside. So without everything, it just emits heat from there. And I'm just thinking this if I'm living in a cold country where there's snows and all that.
You're designing coffins, for Indonesia, and you're designing room heaters for Europe when you live in tropical Singapore. So I find that very interesting. You obviously have a pretty...
No, but when I was young, in my first year of school, we have this wonderful lecturer. He's Frank Drake. He's from London. The first thing he said is that you don't design just for Singaporean because the market's too small. It doesn't represent the whole world. So you gotta have a more worldly view of things, social, political, so you understand how things work in the end. Yeah.
So what is an entrepreneur to you?
I think an entrepreneur is really someone who's a lateral thinker and someone who challenges conventions, someone who always asks, why not? Why so? And how come? Someone who really feels for things and wants to get involved.
My definition of entrepreneur is someone who kind of seeks to look at his place and his role in the world, in his job, and tries to make improvements on it. It's not always about, for me, about setting up a company or opening a cafe or doing another restaurant or things like that. A lot of people say I'm an entrepreneur and they open a cafe and all they've done is copied someone else's concept. I see that all the time in Singapore, and I think, are those people true entrepreneurs? No, But whereas you look at some people who, even within their jobs, you can be a civil servant and be an entrepreneur because you are thinking of a new way to do your job.
I think that an entrepreneur is someone who needs foresight to be able to tell, to look at the whole big picture and to be able to spot gaps in the market, and then of course take the necessary risks to then try and meet the need, come up with something that will make the lives of people better.
I think entrepreneur is someone that is not happy with things that he sees right now, be it a kind of system or how business is run or a design, that you just want to do something out of good intentions, for betterment. Yeah.
Change the world.
I'm not sure to change the world, but I think it just gets into you that something's wrong, I just have to do it.
So do you start out from the beginning of your journey knowing that you want to be an entrepreneur?
I think it was along the way kind of thing. I used to tackling each and every problem in an entrepreneurial life. You get addicted to it. So you keep wanting more. I love the abuse.
Yeah, I had to learn a lot of things along the way. A lot of things like being self-motivated, because there are times where you think that no one believes in you and you just have to pick yourself up and get going. You also need to have a lot of grit, I would think, where all the challenges that come against you, you just need to hold yourself together and then fight it face on.
Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
I don't, but my fortune teller say I am, so... I mean, he said that I always want to try new things and start new things. So in that sense, I am. But the thing is, I got a kick out of creating stuff, be it furniture or new business or new branding. And as I say, it's always fun doing all that.
And I want the people around me to be the entrepreneurial ones, to change the process. Because for me to constantly drive it, perhaps within my own organization, is not that easy. And I don't necessarily have always the best feel for what works on the ground. But within my own organization, I look for entrepreneurs to change things and to
because
make...
there's more synergy and dynamics when you meet an entrepreneur, and then it's kind of fun in that way.
Yeah.
When
You want the
creating
chemistry.
something. Yeah.
So what advice can you pass on to aspiring entrepreneurs? I mean, at this day and age, everyone wants to start their own business. Nobody wants to work for someone else. So what advice would you give someone?
So for aspiring entrepreneurs, really, it's about finding your own voice, applying it, and not be bogged down by things that you haven't thought of a solution yet.
I always tell people to do something different. When they tell me, I want to open a cafe, I said, and things like that, I would say, you got to do something different. Even if you're doing a cafe, you got to do a different kind of cafe.
Yeah.
You really need to find a purpose in what you do, because this is a pivotal point where it drives you in the business. There'll be times where you'll be wondering why you're doing all this, it's such a waste of time, it's too much energy, but then you always go back to why you do what you do.
First and foremost, you must be good at what you're doing, just be honest and do your things well. I mean, there's a lot of things going on if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, but I think these two things will set you out in a good direction. Yeah.
Tell us, what does being a Singaporean mean to you?
I think being a Singaporean, it is a problem that has turned an advantage. I think being Singaporean essentially means that we come from a very nation of diverse backgrounds. A Singaporean really is very adept at being open to his surroundings. The advantage comes from him or her being open-minded to absorb new ideas and to hybridize certain influences that come aboard.
Again, I think it's not easy for a country with no resources and able to achieve what we have right now. And I'm quite proud of that, and I'm proud that I'm one of the generations that is going to continue.
I feel really blessed to call myself a Singaporean because having travelled to different cities and countries for work, you get to see how privileged we are and how lucky we are. And also, I think one huge part is really the equality, the gender equality we have in Singapore. I think that really resonates with me and what we believe in Le Bonito, and that is to empower women.
I was born overseas. I was born in Ireland. I spent a significant part of my growing up years in Ireland. At the same time, I always had my roots in Singapore. I always came back, but ultimately, the place I miss when I'm overseas is where my family is where my roots are, and that's Singapore. And for me, that I guess, more than having that red Singapore passport, makes Singapore home. So, Nathan, what I have here is a personally autographed copy of your book. Can I tell you a very funny coincidence? We opened a restaurant in Paris called Porte Douce last year, and the main feature of the restaurant are these lights.
Really?
And I did not know you designed it.
Yes, it's produced by Line Rose.
Yeah, exactly. We were the
Really?
first customer. We got it straight out of the factory. We were the first customer to use it. Early last year, we opened Porte Douce, so I saw this and I didn't realize you designed it. But I'm going to tell my designer now.
It's designed.
Yeah, in Singapore, by my good friend Nathan Yong.